Hi everyone, I'm back with another LEGO army project. I gotta say, I've been getting more into army building, and that's primarily, I think, because I started using these LEGO armies actually on the tabletop. If you'd like to see an example of me using my LEGO minifigures in a battle report, well, the link to that should be visible now. In my last video, I presented to you my take on an existing LEGO faction, the Rogue Knights. In today's video, I'm going to present a faction that's my own creation, the Sea Drakes. The Sea Drakes are a LEGO faction inspired primarily by House Manderly in A Song of Ice and Fire. The Manderlys are quite possibly my favorite house in A Song of Ice and Fire, and that's probably for two reasons. The first reason is that the Manderlys are cultural transplants in the north. That is, they originate in the south, but circumstances force them to seek shelter in the north. I love that they're a blend of southern traditions, like knighthood, and northern aesthetics. The second reason is that the Manderlys are a naval powerhouse in the north, insofar as one can exist. From their seat of White Harbor, which is one of my favorite cities in this story, the Manderlys control a lot of the ocean and river trade that happens in the north. If you know me, you know how obsessed I am with naval stuff. So naturally, I think that the Manderlys would basically be my ideal house. The other inspiration for doing this army project comes from the newly released LEGO Kraken faction. While not a full LEGO Castle faction, that's not stopped people from doing army building with them before, right? As they are, the Krakens obviously go for a sort of piratical theme, kind of like the Ironborn from A Song of Ice and Fire. The Kraken sigils on their shields definitely help sell that, I think. While that can be interesting, and I know it is for a lot of people, it's just not for me. So to that end, I came up with my own faction, the Sea Drakes, pictured here. Like the Manderlys, the Sea Drakes are a fusion of a few traditions. They are a knightly faction, similar to the Black Falcons or Lion Knights. They would maintain keeps and castles, but unlike those forces, their central power is built around the ocean and the navy, so their settlements tend to be coastal. Unlike the Kraken, they are not raiders. They live in organized, settled societies and practice diplomacy with the other factions if they need to. So they field proper men-at-arms and the kinds of armies that would be common to other LEGO Castle factions, although probably not to the exact same degree. I decided to call them the Sea Drakes to differentiate them from the Krakens, obviously, but I also like to think that the Sea Drakes are an offshoot or cadet branch of the mainline Green Dragon Knights, who happen to be one of my other favorite LEGO Castle factions. So perhaps they broke off from the main branch and settled near the coasts to develop their own culture, with of course some nods to their dragon origins. Hence why their color is dark turquoise, a color that is a mix of green and blue, representing the dragon and the sea combined. I think I'd place them near the Green Dragon Knights on this map, but that's just speculation for the time being. Let me show you the forces I've built. Most of the parts here are original LEGO. I've had to try and be creative with how I've built these because my access to dark turquoise is limited. I don't have any shields with their sigil on it yet, but I also like to think that they are recognizable as Sea Drakes as they are. Starting with the common soldiers, the Sea Drakes do a lot of trade, being a naval faction, and so I think it makes sense that they would equip their soldiers with some kind of standardized uniform. In this case, I think it is a dark turquoise uniform with scale armor and black helms. I wanted to arm them with something unusual, and so to keep with the naval theme, I built these tridents for their foot soldiers. They're not the most heavily equipped soldiers, but I also think that these guys probably do service on ships, and maybe wearing a lot of armor on a ship is not the best idea if you're a common soldier. Complementing the foot soldiers are these crossbowmen, and like the foot soldiers, they're also given a uniform, which is the D&D Bard torso, with a mix of dark turquoise, white, and black arms. I decided to give them a mix of brown pants to help them stand out against the foot soldiers, and also to signal that they're less tightly controlled by this faction. A crossbowman is expected to stand off at a distance and shoot, and so I think they'd wear no armor and have a less uniform appearance. The hat, however, is a tricorn because again, that screams naval to me. So I think the final effect is that we have something that looks very different to the other types of LEGO crossbowmen that you have probably seen. Finally, we get to the men-at-arms of the Sea Drakes. A LEGO Castle faction is not complete without some heavy hitters, and for the Sea Drakes, these are heavy knights. Unlike other houses that maintain strong cavalry forces, the Sea Drakes, well, these knights prefer to fight on foot. So here they are wearing basically suits of full plate armor with the girl helm, which is one of my favorite, and some cloth skirts in a mix of blues and greens. I like to imagine that each knight gets a choice of their own interpretation of the faction color, which is why they're going to be different. And it totally has nothing to do with the fact that dark turquoise isn't a color option for these skirts. They're also armed with tridents, but these were specifically molded as opposed to being brick bolt. I wanted them to stand out with their weapons, to be a bit fancier, and I love the look of these, so I just went with them. Finally, I wanted to make a sort of Sea Lord, who would be a high-ranking captain or leader in the faction, so here's one that I made with a few custom parts. I wanted him to stand out and look regal, so I gave him a Minecraft trident as a symbol of his office, and, well, I think it works. He also has blue and green cloth together to, I think, highlight the shared heritage that I have got going on in this faction. And of course, he's got to have a cape, so I went with one that was blue-green, and that wraps all the naval aspects of this theme together. So you just can't tell me that this guy wouldn't be perfect as the captain of a giant warship. If I had one criticism of this army, and it's probably one that many of you will have as well, it's that the forces are a bit too standardized. Medieval armies are very rarely as uniform as we tend to see them in things like video games and movies, so these guys are very, very uniform. They all have the same, more or less, weapons, they all have the same hats or accoutrements, but that's a limitation of my time and my budget. Standardizing on things makes them cheaper to organize in the long run, and there's not really that many affordable or accessible options for the color scheme that I had in mind. Still, I'm very fond of these guys, and I hope that you are too. Until next time, remember to like and subscribe and share these videos. Take care, and goodbye.